They declassified a bunch of documents. Israelis, the British, and Americans in the past 20 years have consistently declassified documents.
So what's the official story? The official story is that he killed himself, right?
Yep. The Russians got the body, and they got his skull. Okay, here's Hitler's skull, and when they did the genetic testing, it's that of a 35-year-old.
There was no, like, absolute proof.
No.
And a lot of Nazis did escape and go to South America.
There's no question that we're talking thousands, if not tens of thousands of high-ranking Nazis made it there.
Tens of thousands?
Tens of thousands.
Are there any legitimate eyewitness accounts of Hitler in South America? Or potentially legitimate?
Absolutely, potentially.
Whoa.
Creepy stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah. So...
Is it legit? Because a lot of people are like, finding Hitler, get the fuck out of here. They found Hitler, he died.
They declassified a bunch of documents. Both the Israelis, the British, and the Germans and Americans in the past 20 years have been consistently declassifying documents. And there were a bunch of specifically FBI documents that we were spending millions and millions of dollars actively searching for Hitler after the war. As was...
Really?
Yeah, like millions of dollars. Like Hoover was like, no, send more FBI agents to South America, to North Africa, go to the Canary Islands, go to Spain, trying to find out where this guy went.
So what's the official story? The official story is that he killed himself, right?
Yep.
He killed himself in the bunker with Ava Braun.
Yep.
And is there any photographic evidence of his death or anything?
Yeah. So the Russians got the body, and they got his skull. And when they brought it back to Moscow, nobody has ever been able to independently verify who and what this body is. They let one genetic test occur, and the body with the bullet holes that they said was Hitler, and have said, and that's the narrative, that's the story, that's all the eyewitness accounts that are even in the vicinity of collaborating with each other, and corroborating each other's testimony. Like the closest version, because none of it seems to be very accurate, is that, okay, here's Hitler's skull, and when they did the genetic testing, it's that of a 35-year-old woman. But they've said for the past 80 years that this is Hitler. So, I don't know.
So there was no, like, absolute proof.
No.
And a lot of Nazis did escape and go to South America.
The majority of anyone with power. The threat of fascism, the threat of Hitler, the threat of world domination by the Nazis, that threat's gone. What's the next threat?
Communism.
It's communism.
Right.
So that had to be a closed chapter of our history so we could focus our resources and our efforts to what inevitably was going to, I mean, the wall goes up. We have East and West Berlin. You know, we're already looking at Korea. I mean, this happens almost overnight.
Right, very quickly.
You know, when Patton's like, no, homies, we need to go all the way to Moscow. This is not the end of our war. And we didn't listen to him. We then have been, fighting communism for the past 75 years.
So the ones with power that went to South America, I know a bunch of them went to Argentina. They went to Honduras and a few other places. Where do they think they wound up?
So what you had in South America, both Chile and Argentina back-to-back had fascist regimes. You had Perón, who was part of the Nazi party starting all the way back into the mid-30s. He's the president of Argentina. So there's no question that we're talking thousands, if not tens of thousands of high-ranking Nazis made it there.
Tens of thousands?
Tens of thousands. And I'm not talking like little soldiers. I'm talking high-ranking Nazis. Officers, guys like Joseph Mengele and Adolf Eichmann. I mean, these are the most disgusting, despicable humans to exist at the time. Joseph Mengele is the guy that would take syringes full of blue ink and inject them. Oh, or you have brown eyes.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can make them blue.
Oh, wow.
And then take twins and start torturing them to see if one would feel the pain. That's Joseph Mengele. I mean, that's the guy that then in South America was helping high-ranking Argentinians have abortions, and he set up, have you seen the movie Colonia?
No.
About Colonia Dignidad? If you're listening right now, I almost warn you not to Google it, because it was a torture camp that was started by Joseph Schaefer, a Nazi. And Joseph Mengele, the doctor of death that escaped trial in Nuremberg and made it at the behest of Perón into Argentina, he set up the hospital at Colonia Dignidad, which was another safe haven for more Nazis in South America.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's tons of communities. I mean, if you go to Colonia Dignidad, which is now called Villa Bavaria, the Bavarian village, it is only German.
Whoa.
In the center of Chile, in the mountains of Chile. Like there's no Spanish being spoken there. It is exclusively German.
And these are descendants of Nazis.
Powerful Nazis.
Holy shit. And this is going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what are these communities like? I mean, what's their ideology?
I mean, they're pretty white.
Yeah, but are they like, I mean, do they espouse Nazi values or?
Not openly. So Colonia Dignidad, it was a huge problem for Chile that they tried to hide for years. And they got so much power from the torturing that they did. They are almost untouchable. But the second generation, the kids, like the grandkids, sometimes they're even more fanatical than the original generation. Have you ever seen this? Like when you travel abroad, man, it's so cool to get into the culture and get into the food, but then maybe after like 2 months, you kind of miss home, you know, and then like a year, like you really miss home, and then 10 years, like you really, really miss home. Well, it's just times 1,000 with these communities because they're exclusively German.
Exclusively German and really missing home.
Yeah. Yeah. So
70 years later.
The second generations I was talking about, some of them came to the United States and were high-ranking white supremacists that are now in jail, in prison, for their racial crimes.
And they came out of South America.
They came out of Colonia Dignidad. They came out of Bariloche. They came out of
Holy shit.
Cordoba. They came out of Misiones. They came out of, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The first 2 seasons, it was really just unraveling the rumors of what happened to Hitler. The third season was my favorite because I actually got to do real work. I got to bring in more special forces guys, a CIA targeter, Nadia, who helped my unit kill Zarqawi in 2006. This is the team that is now looking at real evidence, trying to figure out, okay, how did we find bin Laden? How did we find Zarqawi? We looked at their associates and we looked at how they moved. We looked at how they communicated. We looked at what routes they were using to get to and from places. And then we just started tightening the noose. And that's exactly what we did in this third season was, okay, let's start following the Adolf Eichmanns. Let's start following the Joseph Mengeles. Hitler's personal bodyguard that was a colonel in the SS that went on to work for everybody after the war, fighting, I mean, fascists do not like communists. So this guy was working for everybody, to include the CIA, fighting fascism in South America, or fighting communism as a fascist in South America in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Whoa.
Creepy stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah. So hunting Hitler.
Are there any legitimate eyewitness accounts of Hitler in South America? Or potentially legitimate?
Absolutely, potentially.
Whoa.
Yep. Eyewitness accounts, I saw him get off a boat. I saw him meet here. If it was just some person saying it, it's almost meaningless.
Right.
But if you look at the context of who this person is, the wealth that they have that they shouldn't have, you know, like, okay, your grandpa got here from Germany in 1946. That's weird. He's on a legitimate visa with an Argentinian passport. Also weird. And now he's a war refugee that's now worth millions of dollars. How does this work? But people, and then this is the hard part, people want to be connected to significant events. And especially in small rural areas of the world, there's so little happening. They want to be attached to something massive. And like the fact that they saw a U-boat land on this beach, and the hatch opened, and you know these cars were sitting there and they were doing Morse code, and this guy gets off and he had this little mustache. You're like, well, but U-boats can't beach. That's not how that works.
Right.
You know,
right.
But you know what they're trying to do. They just want to be connected.
Yeah.
So, and now we're removed 70 to 80 years from the facts. It has been painful to try to use real science, real investigative tools to try to sift through this lore, you know?
What do you think happened? I mean, you've been studying this for how long now?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
If you had a guess, if you had like $1 million, you got to put it on one side or another. Did he go there?
Yeah.
Whoa. Jesus Christ.
I would say, man, it's and that's the first time I've ever said it flat out like that. What I want to say is the way history is written is wrong. That's clear. There's no way that we can say he died on this day. This is what happened. Here is his body.